Now, let's study about recruitment documentation. All application documents. Authors from bbc.co.uk define recruitment as the process of deciding who will fulfill a specific job role. Several documents form part of the recruitment process, also given definition by the BBC authors. A person specification is a document created by a company looking to fill a position. This paper details the type of employee the company is looking for. A person specification contains information about an applicant's educational background, abilities, experiences, and hobbies that the company seeks. A job description. Another document created by a company looking to fill a vacancy is a job description. Its primary goal is to list all of the responsibility that come with the position, such as job title, rate of salary, bonus information, hours of work, work location, all duties included in the role, and the new employee would report to the company may all be mentioned in the job description. An application form. When a potential employee applies for a job, they fill out an application form. It will frequently include a series of questions for a potential employee to answer in order for the organization to learn more about them. It also includes a section for the applicants to write about themselves and why they are the best candidate for the role. A curriculum vitae is a document that applicants fill out and submit with their job application. CV is an abbreviation for curriculum vitae, which means course of life in Latin. It is a personal document that contains information about an applicant's skills, experiences, qualifications, and interests. A company uses this document to determine whether or not applicants meet the requirements of the person specification. Some positions only require a CV and no application form, which may encourage more applicants to apply. According to Adria's solution, your CV is your most valuable tool for advancing to the stage of job interviews. In summary, there are few rules to remember when creating or updating your CV. First is to make your contact information, particularly your email address and phone number, clear. Second, always list your work experience in chronological sequence. Third, instead of lengthy sentences, use bullet points. Fourth, make certain that your key skills stands out. And the last one, any personal information such as your personal status should be left out. What is a CV cover letter? Michael Page gave definition to covering letter as a one-page document handed to the interviewer or prospective employer that contains your contact information, the position you are applying for, and additional information about the details in your CV. Cover letters should emphasize your interest in the position and elaborate on your skills, qualification, and experiences which contribute to making you the best candidate for the job. You should certainly line up your qualification, skills needed, and prior experiences to the job description in the letter to demonstrate that you have done your research on the role and are eager to join the team. A strong cover letter will improve your chances of being invited to an interview. Leave out any personal information. How long should you keep recruitment and employment records? Jaime Lizette of HR Direct Apps provided information as to how long should recruitment and employment record be kept. According to her, all pre-employment documents must be kept for at least 3 years after an employee is terminated. As a result, pre-employment documents such as job descriptions, application, resumes, interview evaluation, and offer letters must be kept for 3 years after the no-hire decision is made. If a candidate is hired and additional documentation is required, background check or a new hire action form The documents must also be kept for 3 years, even if the candidate does not end up working for the company. Hiring records. At least 1 year of hiring history. Keep all job application, including job description, advertisement, resumes, pre-employment screenings, and offer letters for at least 1 year after the hiring date. Personal records should be kept for at least a year. Maintain a personal file for each employee, which includes information about promotions, demotions, disciplinary actions, and transfers. Keep this for the duration of your employee's career and for a year after their employment ends. Keeping performance reviews for at least 2 years is recommended. Separation paperwork. At least a year, it is suggested that you keep any documentation linked to termination or separation for at least 5 years in case of a wrongful dismissal case. Payroll records must be kept for at least 3 years. Any paperwork pertaining to wages, monetary rewards, timesheets, and time of request. Some lawyers propose up to 7 years for prospective scenarios, including uneven pay practices. Family and Medical Leave Act records must be kept for at least 3 years. Keep petition for the leave as well as associated records. Employer retirement benefit records must be kept for at least 6 years. Employer retirement benefit such as pension and other plans must be kept on file for at least 6 years according to the law. Tax records for at least 4 years. Employee tax records, including W-2s and W-4 tax withholding forms, must be kept for at least 4 years from the date taxes were due or paid. For the next topic, let's now discuss all screening, shortlisting decisions, justifications, and any notes made. All the information provided in this section are from the authors of Simply Docs. The benefit of requiring candidates to fill out an application form is that the information is presented in a consistent form. This makes it easier to evaluate each application objectively against the job description, personal specification. If you have received a large number of applications, a standard employment application form template allows the recruiter to quickly sift through them. Hence, focusing on some more important questions form. Interview documents are as follows: interview assessment form, rejection of employment application per interview, invitation to interview letter, interview guidance notes, rejection of application post-interview. To continue the discussion, let's know more about all interview notes. According to the book of the Holloway Guide to Technical Recruiting and Hiring, it is necessary for an interview to jot down notes during the interview. These notes can be turned into a formal write-up document after the interview. Taking notes capture the questions that were asked and provide an elevated account of what happened in the whole duration of the interview. It can include applicant responses and any important points in the discussion. When coding questions are being included or take a part in an interview, a detailed part will capture the candidate's written code, enabling the recruitment team to properly assess the outcome and consistently collaborate the whole process. A final and complete backdrop will include an increased assessment of the code quality.
To further the discussion, let's now tackle about interview feedback form and data protection. Interview feedback forms. According to Indeed's editorial team, interview feedback is the process by which interviewers take detailed notes on a candidate's responses and qualities to share with their hiring team. They take notes immediately after the interview and refine them as the day progresses, as they have more time to reflect on the interview. In their notes, they summarize a candidate's responses to each question and give their opinion about the candidate. Upon completion, the rest of the hiring team will receive copies and use the feedback to make final hiring decision. How to create an interview feedback form. Interview feedback forms include some standardized information and some items that will vary based on the organization. Below is what generally should be included in your form for interview feedback. Organizational values, organization, work experience, and communication skills. Interviewer or interviewers' names, the role of the candidate is interviewing for. Standard candidate information, date of interview, candidate name, role candidate is applying for, interviewer name, interview stage, candidate evaluation, relevant experience, educational background or certifications, general skills, level of proficiency and skills valued by your organization or needed for this role, candidates matched to company values and culture. Hire. Why should the candidate be hired? Provide X, Y, and Z reasons. Hold. Why should wait for other candidate or put said candidate through more testing? Provide X, Y, and Z reasons. Proceed no further. Why the candidate is not suited for the position and detail if we should consider them in the future or another role. Provide X, Y, and Z reasons. Why use an interview feedback form? Authors of smartrecruiters.com said that interview feedback forms make it easier to train and hire new managers. When interviews are based on a standardized form, new managers can effectively run interviews based on a company values without undergoing extensive training. Also, interview feedback forms allow for vast documentation and are customizable and storable in a good applicant tracking system. This way, documentation can be stored and shared with relevant team members at varying degree of access. Also, interview feedback forms reduce unconscious hiring bias in the interview process. Interviewers are often unknowingly drawn to candidates that mimic them and have significant similarities. Interview feedback forms are a great way to limit this bias by keeping interviews to a set evaluation criterion. Sample interview feedback form. Now that you have read about all the importance of interview feedback forms, we thought it would be optimal to provide you a sample interview feedback form that you can use as a template during your own hiring processes. All tests and test results. Definitive guide of criteriacorp.com stated that pre-employment test results or HR011 is designed to measure the one's ability, skills, and characteristics. It is used by rating, score, description, or by category. It is an initial screening for the candidate and for their qualification. The pre-employment test will be based on the position you desire to have and what position you are employing. The site also provided the common types of pre-employment tests, which as follows. The site also provided the common types of pre-employment tests, which are as follows. Aptitude and cognitive test measures critical thinking, problem solving, the ability to learn, digest, and apply new information. Personality test. Unlike with aptitude test, there are no right or wrong answers on personality test. Instead, this test measures the extent to which people possess relatively permanent behavioral traits. Emotional intelligence test. Administering it for roles that require a great deal of interpersonal interactions. Risk test. The main benefit of a risk assessment is that it helps organizations reduce the risk that employees may engage in unsafe or counterproductive work behavior. Skills test measures Job-related competencies, broad ones like verbal, math, and communication skills. Justification of selection decisions. The HR manager must keep good recruitment notes and records pertaining to selection decisions. Remember, all recruitment decisions must be free from any kind of discrimination. For candidates who are selected, this must be securely stored in the employee's personnel file. For unsuccessful candidates, assessment and decision notes must be filed and saved securely. This can become relevant and very useful during an HR audit, employment tribunal situation, or if a grievance is raised by unsuccessful candidate. Therefore, all decisions must be documented and objectively justified. Managers and HR must ensure that all recruitment documentation is accurate, up-to-date, and kept securely on file by the HR team. Tip: offer letters or contracts should include a clause stating that all offers are provisional offers until the organization has received satisfactory reference checks on the candidate. Data protection. All data pertaining to recruitment process for unsuccessful applicants are held confidential. According to Claudian.com, it is a set of strategies and processes you can use to secure the privacy, availability, and integrity of your data. It is sometimes also called data security or information privacy. A data protection strategy is vital for any organization that collects, handles, or stores sensitive data. The Data Protection Act does actually give some advice stating that data should not be kept longer than necessary for the purpose for which it was processed. For example, in hiring, most employers will hold personal data such as CVs, interview notes, etc. Employers ideally want to hold this information for maybe 6 months, as unsuccessful applicants have 3 months or can be extended to 6 months, in which to bring a discrimination claim against the business should they wish, and the employer need to use this data to defend any potential claim. If the employer or company wants to keep the CVs on file for future opportunities, they need to notify the applicant about the reason and how long they plan to keep it for, and let them know that they can object to the information being held.
For the final topic of this chapter, let's go through equal opportunities and employment legislation. What do equal opportunities mean? According to the author of Software Techniques, equal opportunity means that everyone is treated equally during the recruiting and hiring process. It also means that no biases are used to make decisions. Each employee has the right to be treated as an individual. The idea is that important jobs in an organization should go to people who are most qualified, people who are most likely to perform well in a given task, rather than to people for random or insignificant reasons like birth circumstance, family background, having well-connected relatives or friends, religion, sex, ethnicity, race, social standing, or involuntary personal attributes like disabilities. The importance of equal employment. Equal employment policies are necessary for both businesses and individuals. Age, sexual orientation, disabilities, pregnancy, parental status, marital status, and veteran military status should not be used to discriminate against employees or job seekers. Everyone in a company needs the same opportunity to be chosen and apply for positions, as well as to be promoted from the current position to a higher level. Employees are often discriminated based on their talent, potential, or experience because we live in a society that embraces diversity. This should not be happening. Due to their differences, no human beings can have the same ability. As a result, It is critical for businesses to develop equal employment opportunity policies to ensure that all employees are treated equally and fairly. This boosts an employee's commitment, satisfaction, and loyalty to his or her employer. When a person is confident and comfortable in all situations, he or she contributes fully. It is easy to recognize the benefits of EEO laws when an organization considers the importance of equitable employment practices. To begin with, organizations that strongly declare that they practice equal employment opportunities have a greater chance of attracting committed and skilled individuals. Second, EEO-compliant businesses are less prone to face discrimination or wrongful termination lawsuits. Finally, having a diverse workforce is more possible in firms that practice equal employment for all. As a result, this has a lot of beneficial implications for departments, teams, and the overall innovation and productivity of the company. How to implement equal opportunities in the workplace. Reassessing job requirement for the senior leadership team to prevent gender discrimination. Expanding the applicant tool to allow diversity at the workplace. Making sure that all employees have the same access to available opportunities. Rethinking your interview process by accommodating all candidates. Getting serious about addressing life-work balance. Making sure that everyone has access to mentors. Having a peer evaluation. Coaching all employees despite their personal status. What is employment legislation? Employment legislation is a set of laws that govern the relationship between employers and employees. While the majority of these laws are intended to protect workers, there are some regulations that are placed on them. Discrimination, legal working ages, and safe working conditions are all issues addressed by employment legislation. Many problems and conflicts might occur in an employer-employee relationship if there were no regulation in place. Workers in general are the ones who are most likely to be treated unjustly, inappropriately, or inhumanly. Many societies incorporate laws that specify the essential elements of the work relationship to prevent this from happening. Minimum wages, safe working conditions, and discrimination are all examples of this. There is a lack of consistency in employment legislation around the world. The rights and restrictions that are imposed to employers and employees in one country may be completely different from those that apply in another. These rules allow people to be treated differently even with the same jurisdiction in some cases. Governments know that if preventative measures are not taken, employers may become victims. For example, if there were no rules governing how injured workers manage their claim, there is a huge likelihood that many would try to take advantage of the workers' compensation system. As a result, there are usually guidelines determining how long a person has to report an injury and the situation that prevents him from getting benefits such as intoxication. Employment legislation violations are generally treated as civil matters. They are usually dealt with by specific agency tasks with enforcing specific parts of the law or by civil courts. The guilty party is usually punished with monetary damages. All laws prohibiting or recruiting her to act in certain way. However, this isn't always the case. Sometimes the offenses are so serious or irresponsible that a court will punish the offender severely. What is employment legislation? Employment legislation protects workers' rights and oversee their interaction with their employers. Anyone doing an HR apprenticeship will gain knowledge of employment legislation and how it applies to all elements of the workplace, from recruiting to disciplinary action and to parental leave and health and safety concern. Currently, employment legislation is based on the Labor Code of the Philippines. Employment legislation refers to the various statutes or acts that define an employee's legal entitlements to particular actions, benefits, and privilege from their employer or place of work. Anyone working in HR will be educated on employment legislation and how they apply to all aspects of the job. Why employment legislation is important? Some people may perceive employment legislation as red tape or health and safety gone crazy. However, employment law is established to protect and support everyone in the workplace. Without it, there will be no guarantee of sick or holiday pay, and workers will be unable to fight discrimination, bullying, or unlawful dismissal. What issues are covered by employment legislation? When people think about workplace legislation, they think of topics like health and safety. Employment law, on the other hand, comprises a wide range of topics that protects employees and the company for which they work. These include general employment issues such as recruitment, working hours, contracts, employment status, full or part-time, flexible, pay and entitlement for holidays, sickness, maternity, paternity, adoption, redundancy, and retirement, as well as protections such as health and safety, anti-discrimination laws, bullying and harassment, disciplinary and grievance, unfair wrongful constructive dismissal, whistleblowing, data protection, transfer of undertakings,